Hello and welcome to Auto and Operator, the podcast that discusses everything open wheel racing related. Hi, I'm your co-host, Andrew Miller. Today we are going to be discussing the breaking news story that is Fernando Alonso, two-time Formula One world champion, will be piloting a McLaren Andretti Autosport Honda in the 101st Indy 500. Let me give you a moment to let that sink in. Seriously. Fernando Alonso is going to be racing an IndyCar. 6-7 years ago, this never would have happened. First things first, let's discuss Zak Brown, Executive Chief of McLaren. He has taken over the helm of McLaren over Ron Dennis for the 2017 Formula One season onwards. Let me first say that Ron Dennis probably would have never let this happen for one reason or another. Maybe he's just that stubborn, or maybe he just truly doesn't think outside the box. But Zak Brown, obviously being American, and I guess he's friends with both Mark Miles and Michael Andretti, he's smart enough, he's creative enough, he's forward-thinking enough to put together a deal that benefits both McLaren, Honda, and Alonso. Alonso, he needs to run at the front of a field somewhere, and he needs to race hard. And it's in McLaren's best interests to have their livery on that car that he's running, as well as Honda powering it. All parties can benefit from competing at the sharp end of the field in Indianapolis 500. It was a perfect scenario because Honda's competitive this year in the IndyCar Series. McLaren obviously has extensive resources with Honda, in partnership with Honda, and they can literally pick up a DW12 chassis, no problem, steal an engine lease from, a little driver like Stephen Wilson, and come in and barge their way basically to the front. Given Alexander Rossi's experience last year, winning the race, Andretti Autosport is obviously an educational lot. They are very good at taking a driver that has no experience in super speedways or even in the Verizon IndyCar Series in general and teaching them the ins and outs of it. Fernando Alonso will no questions asked be fast, and I think he has every capability of winning. Like I said, this is going to be absolutely mega. The implications that this has for the Verizon IndyCar Series are endless. It could open the door for many other Formula One drivers, given that Max Chilton and Alexander Rossi came over here. Who knows who else might be interested. Both drivers and or teams might be interested in doing exactly what McLaren did. But like I said, Zak Brown's brilliant. I think he put together this deal so quickly because he knew it was the perfect answer to what ultimately would be a catastrophic year for both Alonso, McLaren, and Honda. I mean, it's possible that despite the success that they may have in the Indianapolis race, that Honda could split with McLaren or vice versa, and Alonso could go his separate ways as well. But if they were to win, you never know, and this might boost the personal, the validation, and the teamwork and everything else, and maybe McLaren will be able to hang on to Alonso one more year.
Before we sign off on another edition of Auto and Operator, I wanted to give you my thoughts on the Fernando Alonso to Indy. I was just looking in the recent past about F1 drivers that have come to IndyCar, and the latest two are Alexander Rossi and Max Chilton. Now, Max Chilton had a legitimate shot. He, I believe, ran a couple of seasons in F1, but just had either terrible luck or he just isn't very good. And I could believe that he's not very good. A better example of a recent F1 driver that has come over here and to be proved successful is, of course, Alexander Rossi. And he definitely needed last season to get to grips. The 500 win last year sort of fell on his lap, but he had incredible pace and incredible ability to keep the engine going. So I'm not trying to lessen what he did, but he definitely needed a season under his belt. And it certainly showed he was going to either win or be top 3 at Long Beach, and he just got snuffed from his engine. So he's an F1 driver that came over that didn't have the best shot at F1. He was a reserve and test driver for a few people. Then he filled in at random races, I think, or 1 or 2 races. So he had a shot, but it wasn't what Max Chilton had. And I definitely think he could have capitalized it more in F1. The best comparison for a guy like Alonso in the past is when Mansell came to kart. Now, I know I'm probably the 1 millionth person to bring up kart, but Mansell literally won the world championship, F1 championship, and then flipped the finger to Bernie and to his team because they hired Alan Prost. And then he came to kart for Newman Haas and freaking won. Dude never raced on ovals. There were a bunch of ovals in the schedule. Epic. The media attention that it got was insane because it's Nigel Mansell. He had the hearts of almost every F1 fan. And this is exactly what's going to happen with Fernando Alonso for the 500. There's going to be so much attention there's already a lot of attention on this race, but F1 eyeballs will be on the race. So I'm so excited about that. And on top of that, I think Alonso has a good shot. Andrew touched on it. He absolutely has a good shot at this. Being with Andretti, the guy's got a reasonable shot. Now, I also want to touch on McLaren. They said they're open to future opportunities with IndyCar. And some speculated that it would be a team, like a McLaren team. I mean, that would be great, but I would rather see them come in as a chassis manufacturer because think about how much money McLaren has. They have more money than all of the IndyCar teams combined. So I would, instead of them coming in like another Penske or Ganassi or I guess, instead of them coming in like that and just being another big team with lots of money, I'd rather see all that money go to increase the competition of the sport from a manufacturer standpoint. So if we have 3 engines in a couple years, it would be great to have another chassis. And it's also refreshing that this whole Alonso deal, there is no money issue. Almost every 500 drive comes down to, well, we're trying to scrap some money together. I cashed some of my savings bonds and we should have enough to run. It's what's great about this is that there is seriously not even close to being money issues because McLaren, and even if Alonso was paying for it out of his own pocket, it would be nothing to him. So that's just refreshing because all it's about is Alonso wanting to win, and that's just so great, and I wish it happened more.
So that's it. Quick impromptu episode here. I'm going to give you a full debrief of the Long Beach race in just a couple days, so hang tight. I'll talk to you then.